Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 281 here. I was black here, and I got the chance, cancel that, after d4, d5, c4, a regular queen's gambit. I got a chance to play knight c6, which I had just looked at recently as part of my Chess Basics series. I covered some of the offbeat defenses to the queen's gambit, and this was one of them, the Chigorin defense. So my opponent plays one of the main moves here. Not the main move. I guess the absolute main line is knight to f3. But taking and, this is a reasonable way for white to play. I played this once in Blitz already, and my opponent played knight c3, and I just took the pawn and went on to win the game pretty easily. So you do have to be awake right from the beginning, which is one of the things that makes this opening a bit interesting. It starts out in a very tactical nature. So because white has to spend a move defending the center, black can immediately continue with the counterattack on the center. And once again, knight c3 to kick the queen is met by a counterattack, bishop to b4. And one of the characteristics of the Chigorin defense is you have to be willing to trade a bishop for a knight. You're going to give up the advantage of the bishop pair in exchange for greater activity for your pieces, and hopefully it'll be a position where the knights are active. My opponent played knight g to e2, which is not bad. The main book move here is bishop to d2, just unpinning right away and threatening the queen, forcing the trade. So after knight g2, the queen can stay here for a few moves. We're out of the opening book. And in this position, it's always a question for black when to take this pawn. I think you don't want to wait too long. If you wait for, you kind of would like white to take, which is why you're leaving it hanging here, because that would sort of mess up white's pawn structure a little bit, remove one of his center pawns. I guess it doesn't mess up his structure. I take it back. After he takes, you're going to win the pawn back, and he'll have a fine structure. But it gets rid of one of his pawns that influence the center. So I'm never sure exactly when black should take this pawn. It looks like right here, though, is a good chance. So right after pinning and defending the knight, then go ahead and take that pawn before the queen starts getting kicked around. So anyway, this is one of those things you learn about the opening after you play it a little bit. So I'm learning this opening by playing it. Knight f6 and a3 kicking the bishop. And so that forces this exchange. The bishop retreats, you lose the queen. Although, what does it say? Yeah, bishop takes c3 check is the move. Okay. And he took with the pawn. Maybe taking with the knight is a little better, kicking the queen. But I thought this was decent too. And then here, once again, maybe I should consider taking. I was thinking about it, but I played the move bishop to g4 instead. And you have to be a little careful with this new Stockfish engine. See how the evaluations jump around a lot. Anyway, you see, so it thought for a while f3 was a really killer move, and then after a while of thinking, it gets down to a more normal valuation. So it can be a bit misleading, that first look over here at the engine evaluation. So anyway, in this position, white played queen c2. He didn't play f3, although he played that later, queen c2. So once again, I should probably think about taking. Yeah, he takes d4, pops up as one of the ideas. I just castled here. Now f3, and the bishop retreats. I decided to keep it on this diagonal. Let's see. The engine thinks I should take here instead of retreating the bishop. Now this is a bit odd. If I take and he takes the bishop, what's going on? Oh, I have a fork. That's interesting. Pawn takes, and then here, d3, forking the queen and the knight. So neat little tactic to avoid having to move the bishop there. So yeah, the queen is defended, so there's no queen d2 pinning the pawn. So knight to f4 counterattacking the queen is the engine move. Interesting. Okay, I didn't see that. Bishop h5 just retreating, and the game goes on. But I bet he got a little something here. So I've been somehow gone somewhere astray. He's got this nice array of pawns. He does have a backwards bishop, so black still has something going for him, which is he's got his pieces out. But if white can just seal off the position in this way, it seems like white has a long-term advantage with the bishop pair. Okay, so the knight's got kicked, so I move it out of the way. He plays knight g3, kicking my bishop, and I retreat to g6, also pinning the pawn against the queen, which is a point that he missed. This pawn here is now hanging at this point. My opponent played a4. Yeah, so that was a mistake, and I was able to just grab the pawn, which I did. Hang on a second. Let's see which knight I used. Knight e to d5. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the more logical knight. This knight was already a little bit more forward in doing something active. So my opponent played queen to b3 here, and attacking the knight, unpinning the pawn, so the knight is really attacked, and also attacking here. And if my knight retreats to to b6 to cover the pawn, he can just push a5 and kick it. So I played to f4, and so we're doing okay so far. He played queen takes b7, and now this gives me an opportunity to chase his queen around. So if we count the pawns, the material's even, but black's a little bit better just because he gets some activity against the queen here. And queen to c4. So far so good. And now I play a mistaken move. I guess an active move with the rook is probably a good thing to do. Maybe bringing this rook over to d6 is an idea. Bringing this rook to b8. Different rook moves are suggested here. I was thinking, you know, this knight is sitting here and it's just hitting this pawn, and it hasn't got a lot of prospects. I guess if we erase some of these other arrows, maybe I have the idea of going to h4 and then to this square, and this knight moves to e6. Possibly. It's hard to say that I'm making progress with a maneuver like that. So anyway, I was trying to reposition this knight, and I play knight to e8, and the engine thinks that's giving up a lot of my advantage. But my opponent continues with the bishop to, sorry, not that bishop, this bishop to e3, hitting my rook. So now, oh, the engine likes rook b2 there. I played rook d6. I thought, well, getting on this file would be good. And so the game's about even. Queen b5. Offering a trade of queens. And I could trade. It would be roughly equal, so I probably want to keep the queens on and hope for better opportunities later. I could throw in the move knight d6 check. Now, what I forgot about, which I actually had mentioned earlier in the video, is that this e-pawn is weak. And part of my motivation of moving this knight out of the way was to have some sort of defensive move for the e-pawn like f6. So I could play f6 here. And it's just, I don't know, it's not such a great move because it opens up this diagonal. So I wasn't in a hurry to play f6 if I didn't have to. But I needed to do something at this point. I just sort of ignored the threat to my pawn and played c6, to avoiding the queen trade but giving up a pawn. And now, excuse me, that was a mistake. Now white's just a lot better here. After grabbing a pawn, he's a pawn up. It's a central pawn too. So he's still got a castle as king, but he's got the extra pawn. He's got his pieces slowly getting activated. Maybe this bishop goes to e2 and then he can castle because it's protected by the knight there. Anyway, I played the move knight d3 thinking, well, after he takes the knight, then maybe I can triple on this file and get some activity. But he didn't take the knight. He resigned here. So I guess this is one of those things. It's kind of a lesson. You know, you see this tactic that catches you by surprise. You don't want to react suddenly. You want to take a minute, catch your breath, and pause to think rationally about the position before you just do a sudden reaction. So anyway, the only move here, of course, is bishop takes, which he didn't play, but let's go ahead and see what would have happened. I have to take back, and I'm hitting his loose bishop, but he has a good move in bishop to d4, you know, setting up this battery, threatening checkmate. I was thinking I would play f6 here. What's the engine? The engine is saying queen b7. Oh, okay. It's not checkmate. The knight's defending. Okay. So queen b7, just trying to activate along a different file, because this is basically closed off the D file. How about the move maybe rook c8 to play c6? Is this an idea? And queen c5, blocking my pawn. Yeah, so it looks like he's got a pretty good clamp on the position with this move. So my best try here would be queen b7 apparently. And the game would go on with an advantage to white. So white resigned in a position here. I'll back up. Bishop b3, rook d6, queen b5, c6, kicking the queen. Yeah, queen takes, and then knight d3 check. And then he resigned in this position. So anyway, let that be a lesson to you. Don't resign. Don't resign prematurely, and just in general, after a tactic that catches you by surprise, take a moment to catch your breath. Make sure you're looking at all of your resources. Don't assume that just because your opponent has played a tactic that it's really valid or sound. After all, you thought you had a good position a moment before, so start to look at what are the positive aspects of your position and see what you can do about it. Okay, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.